Yesterday, I annoyed Joe because we woke up in the morning and I started telling him how, 87,000 ghost students, 1 billion shillings lost every year in the payment of ghost students. And we went on and on and on.
Indeed.
And I'm
still annoyed.
You're still angry.
Just for the record.
When they said do not let the sun go down with your anger, you are not that student.
No, I missed. That's the school that had no students.
That school. That was the one.
That was the one.
So we're going to talk about it today. Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa is the Executive Director of the Usawa Agenda, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, dude. How are you?
I am fine. Joe is a bit annoyed, so I have
he will be fine.
He will.
We'll see.
So let's look at some numbers, but we'll look into some of those numbers today. But the whole education conversation, we just seem to be kind of going round and round in circles. But we'll get into that in just a minute. This week we are in Guinea. Guinea is in West Africa. Of course, having been colonized by the French, still remains largely French culturalized, with its own language, of course, and then trying to make its way for itself as one of the 8 West African francophone countries that's pulling away from the stronghold of the French. And this is a proverb that they share today. Knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested. What do you make of that?
Knowledge is never static. Mm-hmm. So there is no moment when you have knowledge and you can rest and say, now I have what I need to know. Mm-hmm. You have to keep learning. And even unlearning some things. If you don't keep learning and unlearning and relearning, then with every passing year, you are as less knowledgeable in every subsequent year than you were the previous.
Yeah.
So, that's my understanding.
There you go. You do better when you get more, isn't it?
You got to keep learning.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
you're on your way out, one would say. And even with that realization, it seems as though with all the knowledge and understanding that we have, especially around the education sector, we're still just not able to get it quite right. So if we were to do a mini audit of what is happening right now, this is just off the top of our heads, without having to go into the nitty-gritty of those details, is that this is an interesting year in education. And I think for the past 3, we've had interesting years. In the last 3 years, we saw KCPE end, and that was in 2023. That was the last KCPE that was done. That meant that we then also in the same year saw the first grade 7s. We then also saw that 844 as a system comes to an end soon. The last KCPE also being the last Form 4s, because the class of 2027 will be the last one of Form 4 in the country. It's also an interesting year because this is the first KJSEA we saw seated as exams in the country. Next year is the first grade 10s, and this is all oscillating around one class, the ones who were the pioneer class of the CBC education. Now as grade 10s, the class 8s, which is another interesting class. The grade 8 they were the last class 8 and will be the last Form 4s. Same ones as we look at all of this. If we further that audit just a little bit, and you just grant me a little bit of grace, Dr. Manyasa, is that capitation for the year 2025 not complete. Interestingly enough, capitation for the year 2024, not complete. For the year 2023, not complete. For the year 2022, not complete. For the year 2021, not complete. That money that was sent to schools took care of the fire at the moment, but did not take care of what was owed before. So everybody was kind of left to figure themselves out. This year, for the first time, the reason that we are being given for the delay in capitation was because there are ghosts in the system. And up to 87,000 ghost learners are being blamed for the reason why the capitation was slow in terms of it coming out. And they needed to do an audit as to who these people are, or why they were paid this kind of money. So my audit at this point ends because there seems to be too much to have to take in at the moment. This is all happening when you must deliver a quality education to the country's children. Why are we here where we are at the moment? Why?
Because dishonesty has become our second nature. And it's very unfortunate. So let's go back.
Okay.
Right.
And let me give you some figures about capitation this year. So schools were sent 360 shillings per learner for primary schools in first term. They were sent 80 bob per learner in second term. And they have been sent 140 shillings per learner in third term.
Oh, was that the original allocation?
The amount allocated per learner in primary school is 1,400.
400, yes. They got 580.
20. They got 580
yes.
total for the year. The amount allocated per learner for special needs learners is 3,000. The amount allocated for JSC learners is 15,000. So if we look at the 87,000 learners that are missing, and we say they are the reason part of the money has not been sent, and the ministry says it is still holding 1 billion shillings, which they think is attributable to this 87,000. It tells you this 87,000, either the 87,000 or the 1 billion, or both numbers are just numbers, random. And let me be very straight. They are random numbers because if you assume that each of those learners is allocated 10,000 as an average, because some are junior, some are primary, it will be 870 million to not be 1 billion. But from the numbers of schools that we have been told which have not submitted the lists, majority of them are primary. By virtue of primary schools having more grades than the junior, then we would assume that these 87,000 learners are mostly primary. If they are mostly primary, the amount does not get close to 1 billion. So the 1 billion figure, I don't know where it is from. And
it sounds nice.
Either
a billion sounds nice.
If the billion is an actual figure, then the 87,000 is not an actual figure.
So something in these two numbers is off.
Fictitious.
One of these two numbers
is fictitious, to say the least.
Is incorrect. One of the two numbers is incorrect. But that, for me, is not the problem. We have said, and I have said this over and over, and at some point people told me I was being alarmist. And I said, no one actually knows the number of learners we have in Kenya. Universities don't know how many students they have. The ministry doesn't know how many learners we have in primary and secondary school.
But how is that, Emmanuel?
How is that possible?
When each and every pupil, student, school has a code, has an index number. How is that? How do we qualify the statement that indeed as a country?
We have created a system where numbers can emerge and disappear.
Right.
And that has allowed for there to be multiple numbers attributable to one school. So one school can have 500 candidates in Form 4, but when they sit KCSE, they are 400.
And that's a statement of fact. There are schools where we have misrepresentation.
Yeah, that's why you've had the ministry say in this verification exercise, they were triangulating data from NEC to the reports from the ministry officials in the field. Because NEC numbers are mostly accurate. Unfortunately, they are after-fact numbers.
Absolutely.
Because they come
after an
examination. So they can't be the numbers to use for capitation.
But yet we register students for examinations.
After-fact numbers.
Yeah.
So these are the numbers. For some reason, they change.
Oh.
And those numbers don't. Some are changed by teachers who want to get more money for their school, so they send in bigger numbers than they actually have. But some are also not being captured by the system, because the system at some point seems to be wired to frustrate head teachers when they are attempting to submit numbers.
Emmanuel,
let me finish this point and then you can come in. Because if you speak to head teachers of junior schools, they'll tell you for first term and second term, they were unable to upload the numbers of grade 7.
What does unable mean? I'm sorry, I don't
They were
understand.
unable. You go to the system and you are unable to upload the numbers. So they did not receive capitation for grade 7 learners for first and second term because they were unable to upload those.
Was it intentionally set that way so they couldn't?
I don't know. But if it is not intentional, why do we have such an incompetent then IT personnel to have a system that frustrates the very function it is supposed to perform?
So that we don't jump the gun.
Yes, please.
Sorry, please. I make sometimes assumptions and I would just imagine that that's the way it is. But please, maybe you can explain so we can understand. I know because like when my daughter was getting into school, on the day you are reporting to school, that is when they give you the form for what was the NEMIS number. There's a UIC number that you get, which is then indexed at the ministry. So then their information, then is it at the ministry? Do ministry officials know that there is this 13-year-old girl with this number? These are her official names. They take her KCPE results and they match them to 1, 2, 3. I'm assuming that's the Ministry of Education, or is it somebody else?
So the same way we have ID numbers, and your ID number is a unique identifier that it will never be confused. There's nowhere someone will put my ID number into the system and it will bring Ndu's face or bring George's face. It will always bring my face.
Okay.
We expected that these unique identification numbers being given to learners will be that number that performs the function of an ID number for the adult.
Yes.
And that when this child moved from one school to another, that number will automatically move.
Yeah.
And once one school files that number as a return of one of their learners, another school cannot file the same number.
Right.
And so there is no room for any school to overestimate the number of learners they have, because each one of them has a number. The challenge with that number has been that it was pegged on a birth certificate, and you have a lot of children without birth certificates for a variety of reasons. Because you have many children without birth certificates, there is room now to enter other children who do not get that unique identification number in the beginning. And for that reason, these numbers then start to shift. And so, and that's why I said the basic problem is that dishonesty has become our second.
Who is inputting?
So
who is inputting these numbers? Who? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my last question for now. Who is inputting these numbers? Like now, Standard Group, IT, they tell us you need to do 1, 2, 3. We know the guys who are in the IT department. We see them, we understand. Somebody sends an email, we know it is person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know. Who is responsible for uploading this data into the system so that, for example, when I'm getting my KCSE results, anybody who's waiting now for KJSE, there is a number when you're sending that USSD code, there is a number you put in that now calls up your results, isn't it? Or am I dreaming?
That is true.
That's true. Who puts in that information?
Head teachers are supposed to input the numbers into the platform.
And the platform belongs to
the ministry.
Okay.
But
Ministry of Education.
Ministry of Education.
Okay.
But that platform is not tamper-proof.
No, we cannot make excuses for them.
And that is the effort that they have been trying to shift now from NEMIS to CHEMIS.
Yeah.
I am hoping that CHEMIS will be tamper-proof. For now, NEMIS, which has been used, is not tamper-proof. So what has happened is that some unscrupulous individuals have shifted children when it is time to send capitation. So I run a school, George runs a school. George knows someone who can help him at the time of sending capitation. Learners from my school are shifted to George's school.
Physically?
No,
or data-wise, online.
Online. They're shifted to George's school. George receives capitation for much more learners than he has. And I receive capitation for fewer learners than I have. That has happened. It's not a hoax. And that is what has allowed the possibility for there to be ghost schools that receive capitation. Why? Because learners from other schools will be shifted at the time of sending capitation and appear in the portal of that school
and receive allocation,
receive money, and the learners will be moved back.
When you walked in, Emmanuel, you said, I will be okay. I will not be okay. Because one,
please be okay.
I shall not be okay. Education is an equalizer.
Yeah.
It is meant to not just interfere with the illiteracy levels, but also empower the society so that you're able to function in modern times, so that you're able to interrogate concepts and live accordingly in today's intrigues of life.
Yeah.
The only thing we can give our children today is, besides parenting, education, so that they're able to be functional human beings in this modern society, both in Kenya and elsewhere, as they shall continue to mingle with in this world. But then here we are, where we know that a major function of this government, or any government, according to our Kenyan constitution, is to not just provide education, but provide quality and accessible education, which is actually supposed to be free, but that's a conversation for another day. Now, you worry me when you say that we have, like now we have the KCSE is ongoing. We have education officers who every morning, together with the administration, police, they are out to dispatch the papers, the examination papers. And you worry me when you say that some of these numbers that may have been registered may actually not be the actual numbers that are sitting for this exam. I'm worried there. Then you scare me when you say that in some of these schools, the ghost schools now, they have received continuously capitation because of some shared generated fake data from one school to the next, and that's how money has been finding itself to those accounts, and it benefits a few people. I beg to ask, we have education officers, we have a whole, education is devolved to an extent. So there is a whole structure that is supposed to ensure that we know how many numbers of schools we have. We keep talking about hiring and retooling teachers. Sometimes even wonder whether that is real or ghost as well. We should know how many pupils we have, how many students we have. Well, then the ministry is exactly not doing their job. So my concern is education being an equalizer, and the issues that you are raising today and highlighting very well. What do we do as a country?
So before we even talk about education being an equalizer, let me mention, I work for Usawa Agenda.
Right.
As Usawa Agenda, we don't even use the word inclusion because the agenda has been equity and inclusion, and we feel inclusion in itself presupposes that someone has a right to include another. And that is not right as per us.
Yes.
So we promote education justice. And a just education is where every child has access and benefits from the kind of education that a wise parent desires for his or her own children. That is essential, not just for the individual as a right, which we have put in our constitution,
yes,
but for the country, because it enables the country to tap its best and utilize for its development. But that is also what underwrites global peace, because IQ is randomly distributed. If we allow only children from well-to-do families whose families can pay for education to benefit from education, that will not stop those we have denied education from being intelligent. They will continue to be intelligent, but they will bear grievances. And if they bear these grievances, they will work to undermine the society that we are trying to build, because they will be excluded, they will be put on the margins of society, and they will fight that society. So we need to make sure that every child accesses the right quality of education and benefits from it, and that is what guarantees us sustainable peace, not just as a country, but as the world. And it is very critical for me. You have raised an important question around the structures that we have. So when I hear that there are ghost schools, the first question I ask, how did they get into the system? We have a very robust system of registering schools. And I will assume that every school that gets into the system has been registered. To register a school, you will apply. But that application form will have to be accompanied by a letter from the county education board. It will have to be accompanied by an assessment report signed by the sub-county quality assurance and standards officer or the county quality assurance and standards officer. It will have to be accompanied by NEMA report. It will have to be accompanied by public health inspection report. So for a school to be fictitious and exist, it means these people,
there was collaboration,
created reports about something that didn't exist. So if we determine right now that we have these 10 schools that don't exist, why don't we go back to the records and see how they were registered? And get all the people who wrote reports that said we have done the inspection and this school exists. And see those fellows in court
because
to tell the story that we are serious.
Right.
That's one. Two, if they have operated bank accounts,
yes,
there's no bank that will open an account for anybody or any institution without the ID of the signatory.
Yes. The current PIN.
And the current PIN number and the face. Why don't we see those faces? If we haven't seen them, we are engaged in a hoax. We're just talking about things. We don't know whether they are actually real.
Right. So, the Member of Parliament for Suba North, when they were interrogating this issue in Parliament before the CS, she made it sound very simple. And I actually agree that this thing is simple. And you seem to have confirmed it now. That it is not difficult for you to find out the origin of the registration of some of these institutions and the students who you're claiming are ghosts. Because I go back to the question, I just need you to clarify. All of these things that are being asked for, letter from the County Education Board, letter from Quality Assurance and Standards Board, letter from NEMA, letter from the Public Health and all of these people, these are government facilities. It's not some random private company who wants to run their own thing for quality assurance. They are government facilities. And again, bank accounts. You have to have identification. The system is watertight. Where is all of this information housed? That this copy of your letter assertion from NEMA, this copy of your letter assertion from the County Education Board, I would assume that all of that, for every school or every institution is together and it's filed, whether it's digitally or manually, it's together. You would have it. So it shouldn't take you so long, or it shouldn't be too difficult a task for you to say, Usawa Agenda Primary School in Mombasa Road, you find the information and you confirm all of these things. Shouldn't be too difficult, should it?
So this is where I start to think that all this mess is intentional. I feel it is intentional, because the only way we have this loophole is that the letters from the County Education Board are not addressed to the PS. And why? Because we don't have the National Education Board, which was provided for in the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep wondering, could it be the reason some people were so hell-bent on de-establishing the National Education Board? Because at one point it was established by Professor Kaimenyi when he was CS for education. And then it was de-established by Matiang'i.
Mm-hmm.
And has never been re-established. I have made a bit of noise, but now there is an attempt to remove it altogether from the law. So you have county education boards that are hanging, and whatever they have to submit to Nairobi has to now go to the PS. Could this loophole be intentionally created? So the counties can do their work, rigorous process of trying to establish schools, but then fictitious schools can be entered into the system from the national level. Because all this information will be domiciled in the National Education Board.
So, it's not only annoying, but also more confusing, Emmanuel, because we are looking at a quagmire, or what you'd call a scheme, because it is known, it must be known by the government that among the institutions that are meant to verify, the authorities that are meant to regulate, they have not done their mandate. 87,000 is not a small number. And suffice to say, about 10 schools were found to have no students, and then also before that, most schools were found to have registered, I saw a school that had students, but they did not register them for the final exam. So in terms of regulation, because Usawa, you're doing your bid, you're coming out, you're speaking the truth to power, you're highlighting the gaps and saying this is not correct for the society, because as you rightly put it, this is not just a business enterprise, it's the fiber of our society that will now spur our economic growth, should we mean to move from the third world to the first world country. There is no other way. The mainstream path here is streamlining our education system. So as Usawa, do you have partners? Do you have collaborators? Do you have something that other people can build, other good willing Kenyans can join in, so that we're able to try and at least streamline? Because this is the end of the year. Beginning of next year, people will be taking their kids to school. You'll be required to provide a birth certificate so that the kid can be registered. They can be onboarded. But you don't want years later to realize that actually you've been in a ghost school, in a manner of speaking.
So we actually have partners across the country. We have 52 partners across the country. We are present in every county in Kenya through those 52 partners. A few counties we have more than one partner, like Nairobi because it's big. Like Marsabit, we have 2 partners there. Nairobi we have 3. Most of the other counties we have 1 partner, with whom we work to engage with the subnational level structures of the ministry and the county government. But that is, and we have partners at the national level. And we are working with the ministry, by the way. We have been engaged with them in the review of the review of the school establishment guidelines. They are changing them into regulations, and we support that idea. We have had workshops with them to review them and to say, can we strengthen them and make the officers involved in the registration process more accountable? Because right now, when you are registering a school and the county education board chaired by the county director of education endorses your application and sends a letter to Nairobi saying we recommend this school, and then they send other inspectors to check and they find it was actually ghost. It ends there. There are no
Nobody goes back to the person.
There are no repercussions to the person who had sent a letter recommending an entity that didn't qualify for registration. So we are trying to strengthen those and move them from guidelines, because guidelines don't carry consequences, to make them regulations that will be inviolable.
Yes.
We violate,
someone can be penalized for violation.
So we are partnering with many entities, including the Ministry of Education itself, to say, how can we work together to strengthen this system and make sure that it actually delivers.
But Dr. Manyasa, is it about strengthening a system or removing the rot? Because this is the thing. If you go to a place, you find it's a ghost school, a normal person would then return and say, this is a ghost school. So one of two things, or both, needs to happen. That this name number be removed from the system, and the people who are responsible for allocating funding to this institution, where students don't exist, then must pay. But that never happened. So how do we say that we are working on something whereby we're just building on the rot?
We need to strengthen the system, even as we look at removing the rot, because if you put a very decent, smart fellow into a muddy track, they come out muddy. So the issue is to say, yes, we want to look at the muddy fellows inside this muddy track and remove them. But we must also clean the track. And cleaning the track is strengthening these regulations to make sure that they keep whoever comes in the straight and narrow.
But as you do that...
Because as it is now, everyone can play all manner of games.
As you try to have controls, system controls that will ensure that whatever is provided for is what we work with, that we work within the confinements of law. We have a tendency of saying, let bygones be bygones. And that's where I personally have a problem, because we lack what we call institutional responsibility. As you say, there are very agencies and organs that are meant to make sure that this process of not just registering but also running a school is foolproof. They have failed on their mandate. In my opinion, the CS is the number one person, because it should be very shameful for any CS to come out and say, in my ministry, there has been stealing, not just for 1 year, not just for 2 years. And my system is not working, because 87,000 people, we have been giving them allocation in form of capitation, and they are non-existent. And 10 or more than 10 facilities, and they were listed, given the counties they came from, actually have been non-existent, and yet we've been dishing out capitation to the same school. That institutional responsibility lacks. So even as you try to reorganize, we cannot let bygones be bygones, because what will be the deterrent then?
I agree with you totally that if someone is going to steal... So I used to teach economics in the university. One of the things that was interesting that I taught was the theory of crime. In the theory of crime, a criminal maximizes returns to crime subject to punishment.
Correct.
And punishment is looking at, one, the probability to be caught, how high is it and what is the return. Two is the probability to get away when you're caught. And how high is the probability?
Was the entire Ministry of Education your student in that university class on how to get away? But
no, I never taught how to get away. But the analysis that the criminal conducts in their mind before they commit a crime is, what is the chance that I will be caught? What is the chance that even if I'm caught, I can get away? And what is the return if I commit this crime? That is what informs commission of a crime. So I am not in any way saying let us not punish those who have offended the law, because there is already the law. So those who have offended the law must take responsibility. But in all fairness to the current leaders of the Ministry of Education, this rot did not begin with them. And in any case, maybe I should say I'm happy they're doing something about it.
But are they?
I am unhappy that they are doing the wrong thing about it.
But Dr. Manyasa, they're not doing anything about it.
Let me finish the point I am making. I feel that the very fact that they have for once admitted that there could be ghost learners.
This is criminality.
I have been saying this for a long time.
Right.
That we don't know how many learners we have. And I was being called names for saying that. So at least there is an admission that we have children who do not exist in real terms. And that there are schools that don't exist in real terms. There's an admission. I am unhappy that this is happening in third term and inconveniencing schools big time in terms of how to prepare candidates, especially for examinations, especially for high schools. It was very unfortunate that this happened in third term. They needed to prepare candidates. They didn't receive capitation on time because of this audit. And if you are auditing in third term and Form 4s are exiting, grade 9s are exiting junior school, it doesn't help. Audit needs to happen in the first month of January. So that for the whole year, you know the numbers you're dealing with.
Just a quick one, Dr.
So it's convenient.
As you talk of audit, just off your fingers, how many schools do we have in Kenya? According to you?
I actually don't know. We have estimates of numbers. When we conduct our surveys, we go to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to do sampling for us, to sample the schools that we visit. And in some instances, they've given us schools and told us, do your survey and we will want your findings to help us clean our frame because we do not have a complete frame. When Kenya National Bureau of Statistics does not have the exact number of schools there is in the country, and it is the mandated statistical entity in the country,
correct.
Then it means it is difficult to tell. We have not published the statistical abstract for 3 years now.
So it is not yet known how many schools.
We don't know when we don't have the statistics.
The reason I ask this is because sometimes we make it rocket science on how to do an audit of how many schools and students we have. Yet, just earlier in the year, when the government found it fit to do a typhoid vaccination, they were able to deploy people to each and every corner of the country because that was well funded and there were resources that needed to be used in a record 2 weeks, less than a month.
The government has presence
across
in the village.
Yes.
Office of the president is represented in the village by the village elder.
Yes.
So, office of the president can tell us how many schools we have in Kenya by sunset today.
So it is not rocket science.
If they wanted that information.
So then if we raise the alarm that this is criminality that is well structured in the Ministry of Education, would we be wrong?
I don't know whether I should say it is criminality by the Ministry of Education. My thinking is that Ministry of Education is not one homogeneous entity. Like any ministry, like any organized group, there are all shades of individuals in there. Yeah, all shades, from the white to the gray to the black. I have learned that life is many shades of gray. So they vary, and so in there are individuals who are very committed, who are working very hard, who want the system to succeed. In there are individuals, many of them well connected, who are doing everything that is contrary to what the public expects. I will tell you, for instance, you ran this feature on principles from hell. Yeah, and it's true. We have principles from hell. We do research, we have gone to some of these schools, and we have met principals who will tell you will not enter. You have the letter from the Ministry of Education, the PS, you have a letter from the County Director of Education. We have gotten County Directors of Education to call them, and they have said you will not. So, who are they and who is their patron or matron? If you have the letter from the PS, if the County Director of Education has called them and told them, these people are doing research, allow them. And she tells you no. And one of those such as schools is Bishop Ngandu. We went there. We were turned away, and it was being mentioned in your news. I'm sorry to mention it.
No, it's public.
Don't be sorry.
It's public. So you wonder who protects this person. And you can't maybe accuse the Ministry of Education for what happens there, because this person seems to have powers beyond what the Ministry of Education can regulate.
And that's the problem, Dr. Manyasa. And I think that's the problem, that we seem to want to coddle this thing down the road. And it is very clear that it is criminality that is going on here. But we choose to say, okay, well, let's see how we can work together. You can't. If Joe committed a crime, and I was in the room with him, and I watched the thing happen, and I just kept quiet, and somebody finds out that I was in that room, and that case is prosecuted, I am guilty by association. It's in the law.
Yeah.
I can be prosecuted. It's not possible that we say that the Ministry of Education oversees education in the country, and these things are going wrong day in, day out, and we say, oh, okay, it's a monolith, it's complicated, there's so many wheels turning, so many people doing too many things. And it is in that wheels turning that this criminality is taking place. So we're saying it's too big to deal with?
Do one of the things I have to tell you. There is what the Ministry of Education can do, and there is what other institutions need to do. Why, for instance, has ESCC never done a lifestyle audit on some of these principals?
Because they're incompetent.
Why would I be appointed head of a small school today, and tomorrow I'm driving a Prado?
Because that same systemic rot in the
my salary as a head, as a school head. If I have any other business, you know it, and because I should be declaring my taxes. Why?
Because we're accepting of the same systemic rot across the board.
So we have many institutions that are not playing their role.
Absolutely.
But there is what you call the one government approach. You see, we only have one government. All these ministries operate under one government, one constitution. Civil servants, we don't say they're different. It is one government. That's why it's even easier to have these ministerial cross-departmental transfers. And you're expected to continue working within the ethos and the ethics of that practice. So we cannot now complain, only to turn back and say, but it is not your full responsibility. Honestly, Daktari, we must take a stand and call it out for what it is. If we had a very proper, well-functional education system, then we would be crediting the Ministry of Education and saying they're doing a very good job, like we have done before with some of the ministers of education. So if this one is not working well,
like which one?
If this one is failing,
let's start there.
Like Kaimenyi, like you said earlier on, he had the National Education Board. So some things were working then. Of course, we've had transitions, and that's why I'm saying you should not be anchored on personalities per se. Institutional responsibility. When you subscribe to being a teacher, to being a CES, you know the duties and the functions of that office. If you're not able to execute, you should get out of that office and let Kenyans have another person who can serve them. Let's not excuse the bad manners. This is criminality because you're talking of billions of people and lives of children and kids who their lives are getting compromised today. They will not be functional tomorrow.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that we have this happening in education, but I want us to maybe pivot away a bit from this and look at the issue of what does it take to educate a child through school in Kenya. That is a conversation that I would want the government and led by the Ministry of Education to help us to have. Why? Because if you budget and say we'll send capitation of 14,200, actually 1,420 per child, and you send 580, do you still expect that school to function or not?
That's the criminality.
If that school functions, are we in a way saying the budget was too much. We budgeted too much. And why are we budgeting too much? Much more than what is needed. There is something else that has happened recently. They have said Form 4s are going to collect, Form 4 leavers are going to collect their certificates from the sub-county officers so that they are not detained by school principals. It is very populist and sounds good for learners who are leaving school. It will have very dire consequences on children who come from struggling families. Because simply, there is no principal who is going to allow a child who has not cleared fees to even register for exams in their school. Why? Because if you allow them, they will never pay you. They will just sit the exam, go collect their certificate from the ministry and walk. They will never pay these debts that they have accumulated in the school. So principals are not going to allow. And the one who is going to suffer is the same person that this declaration is meant to help. It is much better to allow children to finish school and come back, work hard to get money to come and collect their certificates. Because these schools need to run.
That arrangement will be very short-lived because, Emmanuel, I'll have you know, we, the Kenyan people, we opine that the next regime must provide free, quality and accessible primary and secondary education so that this whole shenanigans of capitation, sending less money, ghost schools can come to an end. We have to change our education system. The revolution of liberating our people from illiteracy and siphoning of public resources through the education system has to come to an end. If only we collapsed all these funds that we have, we stop this issuing of bursaries and misusing people, then we have a free, credible, quality, accessible education. Do you think that would be a step in the right direction in streamlining our education system?
Ideally, that will work. But we have to ask ourselves that the Kenyan economy have capacity to do that. And I am a trained economist.
Right.
And I would never want to say something that contradicts what I have in my head. So I try to be as forthright as I can on every issue. The Kenyan economy is the Kenyan taxpayer. Is the Kenyan taxpayer capable of paying for free, quality, primary and secondary education for every child? Kibaki didn't. Kibaki introduced free day secondary. Those day secondary schools are not offering quality education. Let's start there. There are schools where children are just growing up. There is
you see that's a plowback.
I have data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That shows sub-county schools are generally producing the grade E, C, and D, C maximum.
Could that be as a result
they are
of
educating 65%
might
of the
that be as a
learners.
result of the teaching personnel? It's not squarely on the student themselves. If we were to engage at that level.
So providing free school means
quality.
providing free quality education means providing facilities.
Correct.
And providing
personnel. Yes.
Majority of the sub-county schools don't have adequate numbers.
That is with this regime. That's what we're saying.
It's not with this regime. It's from the beginning.
I'm saying moving forward, the next regime come 2027, Kenyans are saying
so that's why
we must have free, quality, accessible education, which encompasses personnel, equipment, facilities, and proper management of the students.
And that is the question.
The question was, can our economic model manage that?
Can Kenyans afford it?
Then the answer would be, we need a better economic model. Yes. We cannot be siphoning resources to ghost schools. Capitation that actually never goes there on time or in good time to be utilized on the same students. So we have to revise.
For me, the problems we face in the education sector are solvable, but they require coherent thinking. At the moment, no one is thinking broadly and looking at a holistic solution. Everyone is kicking the can down the road. And I said this earlier this year, and I said, we are approaching the bottom of the hill We have been kicking this can down the hill, but we are approaching the bottom of the hill where we will have nowhere to kick the can to. And we need to confront this fact. So, and think comprehensively. What do I mean by think comprehensively? We need to sit down and do the math and say, this is what it will cost to educate a child. I asked that question earlier. Do we know what it will cost to educate a child? At the moment, I don't think we do. And not just to educate, but to provide quality education. Not opportunities to grow up in school. We have a lot of children trapped in schools where they're just growing up. After your 4 years, you're going to get an E. You qualify for an artisan course, which you had qualified for after class 8. What have you been doing in school for 4 years? So let us go back there. We need to ask, what will it take? Once we have asked and answered that question, ask ourselves, this is the answer. Times the number of children we have, can we afford? What can the ministry, what can government, because remember Kenya on paper is already allocating the highest percentage possible to education
in its budget.
On paper. So let us ask ourselves, in this budget, how much can we be able to allocate?
A good question.
Once we have asked that question, let us ask, what is the gap?
A good question, and in the interest of time, Professor, it's true, we don't have the unit cost of education. But if you were to offer free quality education, it will cost us not more than 200 billion per year. We can continue that conversation another day. Thank you very much, Dr.
He's the Executive Director of the Usawa Agenda, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I think today we've just been able to realize that there seems to be a very big hole that we need to dig out of and then cover it so that we don't get back into it again. And there are ways to cover it. Thank you.
Thank you.
These are the conversations that we have in the Situation Room, necessary for us to have. Thank you for being part of it this Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing, for more. Have a good rest of the day.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.